electricity tariffs are undergoing significant adjustments, and this is sparking widespread discussions about affordability, service quality, and consumer protection. Why this is uh, very important is that electricity is an essential source that impacts every aspect of modern life. Yet many Nigerian consumers face challenges such as tariff hikes, inconsistent power supply, limited awareness of their legal rights. The Electricity Act and other regulatory frameworks aim to balance the interest of consumers and investors, but we see that gaps in implementation and enforcement often leave consumers like you and I vulnerable. So today we will explore the legal foundations governing electricity tariffs and consumer rights in Nigeria. We will examine the obligations of electricity providers, the protections offered to consumers under laws like the Electricity Act, and the broader implications of tariff increases on households and businesses. Together, we aim to shed light on how legal mechanisms can ensure fairness, transparency, and access to reliable power for all Nigerians. Hubbridge Solicitors is a premier law firm and has also done well over the past year to bring legal issues to the forefront and to help spark forward developmental conversations. We have a number of speakers that are leaders in their field and also have like the requisite knowledge to be able to guide us today. So everyone here is definitely going to have an insightful session that will leave a mark as you go on further. So during the course of this event, we're not just going to be talking, we're also going to have some exciting breaks where you get to win prizes. And it might just be you listening right now. So I really encourage you to like uh put your put your complete attention here. I understand that it's a Friday and people are already winding down and all, but trust me, this is one great way to wind down, right? So very shortly, we will take our first speaker. And just like I've said, if you know someone that is supposed to be here and that isn't here yet, you want to call them and encourage them to come join. Mr. Kabir Adamu will be coming up very shortly to take the first session. It's going to be for 20 minutes, and then we're going to have a 10-minute question and answer sections. So you can start putting down your questions. You can type them in the comment box as we go so you don't forget. Everyone is muted because we don't want a situation where we're going to have any form of distractions. So moving ahead, my name is Albright Emmanuel, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Beyond being a power enthusiast, I have worked in the Energy and Natural Resources department for a while at Templars. So this is this is a session I definitely am also going to be enjoying alongside you. So thank you so much for being here once again, and I hope that you have a great session. And onto our first speaker for today. He's going to be speaking on the analysis of the role of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission in dispute resolution between electricity distribution companies and consumers. This is no other person than Mr. Kabir Adamu. He is a dedicated and driven legal professional with deep expertise in electricity regulations and policies. He has a proven track record as a specialist in licensing power projects, developing regulatory instruments, and reviewing complex transactional documents. His professional expertise encompasses the development of strategic legal approaches that uphold industry standards whilst effectively navigating evolving regulatory and policy landscapes, including state level initiatives. Mr. Kabir, please, if you're online, could you just unmute and show us that you're here? If you
Good
can hear
afternoon.
me,
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much.
good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. So we're ready when you are. We're ready to drink from your well of knowledge.
Well, I'm ready if you're ready to. Thank you so much. Uh,
Definitely. Please go ahead.
okay, want to start by thanking to your law firm for the invitation to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission to participate in this, what you call insightful webinar program. Uh, for us at the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, any opportunity to engage with the stakeholders, especially the most critical and relevant stakeholders, customers, is an opportunity that we don't miss. So it's an important thing for us as part of the broader mandate of the commissions for customer engagement, customer satisfaction, and customer retention at all phases of our regulatory activities. So it is on this background that I want to start by our looking at the topic, like the role of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission in dispute a resolution between the customers and the utility companies. Now, so a bit of background, especially to people that may not actually know what NEC does, because you go out, you ask people about the role of NEC, they confuse the role of the regulator, perhaps sometimes with the role of service providers or the role of the utilities that are operating in the power supply industry. So it is important to give a bit of background. I will try to be as brief as possible and as simple as I can. So I always want to start telling people or taking people back to the early 1990s when the whole concept of neoliberalism was shaping the global world, especially the South American, with what they call the Washington Consensus. It was at that time that there were a lot of reform initiatives in all over the world, especially in South American areas, about how utilities will be regulated or will function more effectively. So around the early 90s, we have a couple of these paradigm shift where governments want to shrink some of its own responsibility from being at the commanding height of managing the economy to allow private citizens or private investors to participate and help in infrastructure initiatives and development. So power or energy sector is one of those critical infrastructure at the time, and there were a lot of activities going on. Yeah, here back in Nigeria, it was during Obasanjo's administration that his government started the reform of the electric power supply industry. We all knew at that time, or before that time, it was all almighty NEPA. NEPA was basically doing the work of NEC, the work of DISCOs, the work of TCN, the work of now the Nigeria Independent System Operator, and so on and so on. So basically, NEPA was like doing almost everything at the time, and really it became clear that it was not sustainable to continue in that fashion. So a new legal framework was developed based on the power policy, and then the some of the critical things in that at that in that at that time was the creation of new Electric Power Sector Reform Act, which will be the governing framework, and then the establishment of an independent regulator called the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. So on that basis, Nigeria was following what is called a standard model or a prescriptive model, whereby the law was established first, and then the regulatory instrument or the regulatory institution was established by the Electric Power Sector Reform Act. So in summary, NEC was established by the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, called the Establishment Act. And as we all know that in 2023, the National Assembly, they developed a new Electricity Act entirely, with a lot of changes and a lot of modification and improvements. And it was signed into law, and it is now the governing law, the Electricity Act 2023. This is the law that is now governing the Nigerian power supply industry, so to say. So what is important here by this introduction, just to make it a bit of a simple explanation, NEC, the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, is the regulator of the Nigerian power supply industry. This Nigerian power supply industry now has many players. So NEC established to be the apex and independent regulator that will be independent of the government and then independent of the players or the entities that will operate in that power supply industry. So it is important to know that when NEC was established, it has broad powers. But the key powers of the commission was to do what they call economic and technical regulation. That is controlling, or regulation is like control. So NEC was established to be the regulator of the economic and the technical aspects of the power industry. And as we all know, there are critical players that you will be hearing in the course of this discussion. So NEC is like let's say, the regulator. Then we have the distribution companies. But before the distribution companies, I mentioned distribution companies because most customers have direct construction relationship with discos. We don't know how power is generated, except if you are an engineer or somebody who's working in the industry. We don't know how power is transmitted. All we know is that we have relationship with discos because these are the entities that interact with customers on day-to-day basis, and these are the people that we have direct contractual relationship with them. But in the value chain, we have, for example, basically it starts with the gas industry, although NEC does not regulate gas industry, but generating companies are the companies that generate powers industry, about power in the country. These companies, basically we have different fuel types. Some of them use gas and very few use hydro. Now, so we customers don't have direct relationship with them. Then we have the transmission company that transmit electricity at high voltage, that is at 132 or 33 kV lines. And then we have the distribution companies that we are going to be talking about, the disputes, how disputes are being resolved between them and customers. Then we have like trading companies, companies that have licenses to trade in electricity by buying powers from generating companies and selling power to willing customers or willing buyers. So basically, you see, these are the critical players on one hand. Then you will have the Ministry of Power that is responsible for policy formulation and policy implementation. And that is on one hand. Then you have the National Assembly on the other hand. The act is very emphatic and clear that one of the functions of the commission is sending quarterly report to National Assembly on its activities. Then on the other, and then I think then you have other relevant agencies that play their own part, like you have the Rural Electrification Agency, you have the Transmission Company of Nigeria, you have NEMSA that is in charge with standard and so on and so on. So this just to give you a kind of background, if you are just joining for the first time and maybe you have not maybe heard this thing from somebody, so that's why I'm just trying to say this. So as we said earlier, NEC was established by the Electricity Act, especially Section 33, as the apex regulator of the Nigerian power supply industry. Now, as we all know, the new Electricity Act, or from even before the new Electricity Act, the Constitution of Nigeria has allowed states different has allowed the states different state of the federation to create their electricity markets. So by the constitutional amendment, and then the new Electricity Act has given a detailed procedural requirement for establishing electricity markets. So therefore, every state in the country now can have their own electricity market with all the regulatory powers to regulate that electricity market. So NEC, however, is the regulator that is in charge and is responsible for what we call the national or international cross-trading transaction in the industry. So NEC is the apex, that's why it's called the apex regulator for the industry. It has a number of powers and functions. You can see when you look at the powers and function, I think NEC has around 9 or to 10 powers when you look at Section 34 of the Act. And of all these powers, you'll see 50 or about 40% of the powers that the Act gives the Commission, they all relate to powers to protect the interests or to protect the concerns of customers or consumers, as the case may be. You see, it will say the job of a regulator, one of under the Section 34, is to strike a balance between the interests of the consumer and the investor. And, another provision will say the role of a regulator is to ensure there is fairness in regulations. Another one between the investors and consumers. Another section will say one of the function of the regulator is to ensure that power is adequate or is available to consumers. So a lot of these functions of the commission, they revolve around the the power of the commission to strike the delicate balance between the interests of investor. Without the investor, the customer will not have electricity supply, and without the customer, obviously there will be no any industry. So it is a delicate and important job of a regulator to do it in a consistent and a fair manner. So when you go through the Act, you see under Section 34, spectrum of powers of the Commission to ensure that customer is well satisfied. Under the Act, the Act gives the Commission power to issue subsidiary or regulations to better or to effectively carry out its mandate under the Act. So on the basis of that, the Commission comes out with like different kind of regulation, and key regulation that we will touch here is the customer protection regulation, which like more or less contains the rights, the obligation, the service standards, the minimum service requirements, and how complaints are lodged and handled by the distribution company, and how that complaint can be escalated to the head office, that is the commission. So basically, it is important to understand this background. Now, as we said, when you look at the principal functions of the commission, you will see that it's more or less customer-centered. And practically, the commission has a whole division that is dedicated to customer-related issues. There is a whole division that is responsible for treating customer-related issues. Now, the question that now will be asked is that why is customer very key and central in the business of electricity? If you now want to understand business of electricity in projects or infrastructure sense, uh, distribution companies, these are companies that have what we call, or they are qualified monopolies. These companies are not like the ordinary service providers that a customer has a choice to, okay, I don't want to be served by this supplier. I will go to another supplier. No, the distribution companies, basically, because they operate what we call uh, um, a monopoly, it is, and they don't face competition. If you are in Abuja, you notice that you have only one Abuja distribution company for now. Of course, I am aware of what we call other independent distribution companies, but they don't serve large-scale customers or a chunk of community. Distribution company, by their nature, they are operating sunk cost kind of operation or investment, whereby if they employ their equipment, then that equipment cannot be easily removed. And even if it is removed, it may not be used elsewhere. So because of that, they don't face competition pressure. That pressure must usually come from the regulator of that enterprise. So the point being made is that the distribution company that is providing electricity service to a customer does not like does not face stiff competition from other distribution companies, because you don't get multiple or two or more distribution companies in the same location doing the same business. Usually a distribution business is monopolistic in nature. Now, one of the critical roles of the commission or of the regulator is to set standards for this person. The commission would give you a license, and now in the license there will be terms and conditions of how you are supposed to operate your license. So these standards, according to Scott Hamlin, may be traditional standard or maybe new standard. But what is most important is that because you are dealing with customers, and these customers, they are usually at your mercy. And there is a saying in the industry that distribution companies, they behave opportunistically if the regulator takes his eye away from them. So therefore, it is on that basis that you will see that the commission came out with a regulation called Customer Protection Regulations in 2023. And before 2023, there were a lot of these regulations, like around 5 regulations, more or less dealing with customer-related issues. But these regulations were consolidated, just like the way the Electricity Act consolidated some of the pieces of legislation in one in the Electricity Act. This customer protection regulation consolidated some prior customer-related regulatory instrument, like we have customer complaint handling standards and procedures, which is a regulation dealing with customer complaints, how these complaints are lodged, how these complaints are handled or treated by the utility. And then we have uh, connection and disconnection procedures for electricity services, which is a very important regulation that every customer, especially in Nigeria, should be aware of, how a connection can be done, how a disconnection can be affected, what are your rights, what are your obligations, what do you need to do, what a disco must do before they connect or before they disconnect you. And then the one there's another one called the customer service standard of performance for distribution companies. This kind of this is like a high technical in terms of like it's a beautiful regulatory instrument that sets what is called the minimum irreducible minimum standard of service expected of a distribution company. If something happens, or if, let's say, there is a fault, how many minutes or how many hours or how many days the distribution company must actually, the timelines the distribution company must comply to rectify or to attend to a customer request or a customer complaint. Um, then we have meter reading, billing, cash collection, and credit management for electricity supplies. It's an important regulation dealing especially with issues of how meters should be read, especially prospect meters, how they should be read, and the regulation is clear that a meter must be read like once every month, or at least no later than once in every 3 months. So basically, these are some of the instruments that we have. But before you talk about this instrument, the first instrument that you have as is the Electricity Act. This is the Act of the National Assembly, which, like, when you look at it, it has a number of issues or a number of provisions that protects the right and the interests of a customer in the industry. And then after that, then some of these rights are further now broken down in these different regulatory instruments. But all these regulatory instruments, as we said, they are all consolidated in the Customer Protection Regulation in 2023. So it is important to know that, for example, now how just want to, because of the time, let's just go quickly to see how a customer can lodge a complaint if he has any grievance. I guess maybe the level of service. Of course, if you now ask 10 people, almost everybody will tell you that he has one dissatisfaction or grievance with a distribution company or the other. This is this is like a normal thing. So that's why the customer complaint handling procedures is very key and important for you to understand. If you have any issue, if you have any problem, how do you actually channel this problem? How do you get this problem resolved? So
Sorry, sir.
basically,
Just before you jump into that, and this is a very important aspect, I just want to point out that while we're wrapping up, please, if you have any questions for this session, do well to drop it in the comment box. Very important so that we can work on answering them. Thank you so much, sir. Please, you may proceed.
okay. Thank you so much. So, uh, the if so just to know, so that at least you will be armed with necessary information, how if you have any issue, because a lot of time people will just call, maybe some people may even have a complaint, but they will not be able to, or they don't know how to go about handling it. Your complaint, if you have a complaint, and if you follow the process that we'll just tell you now, your complaint will be addressed. So the first thing that you should know is that if you have um, any complaint, you want to report, or you have any problem with the distribution company, you should know that NEC is the regulator of Abuja. For example, if you are in Abuja, if you are in Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution PLC, NEC regulates these distribution companies, and they are expected, or they are required, to comply with the regulations and the industry documents that are issued to them by the Nigerian electricity, their regulator. So if you have a complaint, the first point of call is to go to the distribution company's office, because they are mandated by this customer protection regulation to have what is called customer complaint unit. So the distribution company will, it's not just enough to say that they handle or they attend to complaint. They are required to have a dedicated office or a department that is called customer complaint unit, that is responsible for attending to or treating complaints filed by customers. Go to the office of this distribution company and lodge your complaint there. Now, if you lodge your complaint with them, that is they are required, or they are expected to resolve your complaint at most within 15 days. Meter accuracy or reconciliation of bills, the reconciliation of bills, then that should be handled within a billing cycle of one month. But any other time, with the exception of maybe construction, where there are construction work, they are expected, or they are required to handle the complaint, which is just 15 days. Then if the resolution is, or if they have not resolved, or for any reason you are not satisfied with the resolution at the discourse CCU, then you can lodge an appeal at the NEC forum office. NEC has offices called forum offices within the operational areas of discourse. So you find out, if you go to our website, you will see the list of the available functional forum offices. And then if you have any issue, but you don't go to forum first, you go to discuss CCU first. And if they are not satisfied with their resolution, or their their decision, then you go to the forum office and lodge an appeal there. The forum, now, they are manned by professionals, and they have expertise. They look at it, look at the complaint, and it's just like a kind of, it operates like a quasi-judicial body. So the disco will be there, will represent their positions. The customer will be there, will represent his own position as well. And they are expected to, depending on some other factors, to complete an appeal within a period of 2 months. So from there, if again you're still not satisfied, then you can go to the head office, which is the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. You can write an appeal against the decision of the forum. And next, now, that is they will look at it again, and then will make its own decision based on what is presented before it. The point I want to add to this is that this uh, customer redress process is what is called the concept of judicial difference, whereby it is expected if you have a problem maybe with connection or billing, or these are all technical problems, load shedding, voltage level, and so on and so on. It's not everybody that will appreciate the nuances of this concept. So if you have this and you just rush and you go to court, chances are that if you go to court, it will take longer time than necessary. It was as a result of that that in other jurisdictions like America, they introduced the concept of what they call judicial difference, whereby some of these professional and specialized activities are outsourced, or small, so to speak, or so to say, to specialized agencies to handle this. So when you look at this, when you look at the customer handling procedures in the Nigerian power supply industry, if a complaint, a lot of complaints that go to distribution, if they are not resolved, you take it to the forum office. And if you go to forum office, there is a representative of the Nigerian Bar Association, there is a representative of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. There is a representation of the representative of the FCPC. So a lot of professions are there, at least to give a kind of a balance and moderation in the way the complaints is being handled. And if it is not resolved satisfactorily, then you can bring it back to, you can take it to NEC, and NEC will make its own decision. So in summary, this is the stages that you follow. As I said, the first place is the discourse CCU, discourse customer complaint unit, and then from discourse CCU to forum, and then from forum to NERC. But still, apart from this, we have other channel, because we know the commission appreciates the 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 concerns, a lot of concern. People are making a lot of concerns. People are not happy with the electricity industry. People are not happy. A lot of complaints here and there. Well, some of these issues may be beyond perhaps the discourse per se, but apart from going through this, anybody that send his complaints to direct that he sends a complaint to the commission directly to what we call NEC has its own CCU unit, customer complaint unit. The commission will not throw back your complaint. The commission will send the complaint to the distribution company, requiring the distribution company to provide response or solution to, or response to the complaint. And in line with the integration of or adoption of new ways of doing things, NEC has also what is called call center, whereby if you have any issue, you can just send your email. You have a complaint, you can send your emails at complaints at nerc.gov.ng. Any complaint you have, you can just lodge that complaint there. That complaint will be sent to the DISCO, and then the DISCO will be required to respond to the complaint. And it will be monitored real time. It's like real time, whatever is happening, NEC will have visibility and see how this particular complaint is being addressed by the distribution company. So basically, these are uh, some of the procedures for handling for handling dispute or complaints in the industry. At every stage, NEC usually has what is called like quasi-judicial function, and then it has also administrative function, and then it has more also a quasi-legislative function. NEC holds hearing to address some complaints that are of complex nature. So they can come and appear before the commission, and the commission will resolve those complaints. So NEC does a lot to address some of these complaints. I think because of time, so let me stop here for now, except if there are other issues that maybe somebody may have, or addition somebody will make, or question somebody will make. But the last point I would say is that at the commission tries to see customers not just as people who complain about existing services, but also as people who deserve excellent services and demand the base in new services. So thank you so much. Let me stop here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garfield. That was a very enlightening session, and I am grateful that you were able to discuss um, the subject matter within the short period of time that was given and still deliver it perfectly well. As a matter of fact, you've answered most of the questions that we had, like what is the procedure for dispute resolution? What would one have to do? Where would one have to go to? So you made it clear that um, when there when there is a problem, a consumer does not just jump and go to court. So that's what most people think. The first thing is, oh, I'm going to sue the distribution company, or I'm going to get I'm going to get like the first thing people usually think of is court, right? So thank you so much for pointing out the proper procedure and steps to take. And we have a question from the audience in the chat box. I'm going to read that out, then add one extra question. I'll just put them together so that you can just address them in the next 5 minutes, since we're already running behind time. So the question in the chat box from Mabel Saliu was, how has the new Electricity Act helped us as consumers of electricity? Now, this is going to be this is quite an open-ended question because I'm sure that there are a number of mechanisms in the Electricity Act, right? But if you could just highlight like the most crucial ones for the purpose of this question and for the purpose of knowledge. And then the second
Sorry,
question will
sorry,
be,
sorry. Can you go back to the question, please?
yes, the question is, how has the new Electricity Act helped us as consumers of electricity? So the person is asking for like provisions within the Electricity Act and mechanisms within the Electricity Act that helps to protect the rights and interests of electricity consumers. But like I said, I know that's a very open-ended question because there are a lot of mechanisms. So if you could highlight the most crucial ones and salient points to that effect, that would be wonderful. The second question is, I know that this is particularly about NERC, right? But we're also aware that some states have established state electricity regulatory commissions, and the power to regulate um, power activities within those states have been given to the state regulatory bodies. So in that type of situation, um, would it still be the case that where there is a dispute, after having reported to the disco and not getting a response, the aggrieved consumer would still make recourse to NEC, or would they have to go to the state Electricity Regulatory Commission? If they do and there's no positive response from the State Electricity Regulatory Commission, would the next step be an appeal to the courts, or would they still have to revert to NERC? So the question is, in cases where state electricity regulatory commissions have been established, what role would NERC still play in resolving disputes between consumers and electricity providers like discos?
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for the question. I think the first question is, how has the new Electricity Act helped us to as consumers in Nigeria? Well, as you said, this is like a very long, wide, wide question. So, but when you look at it in a very simple terms, the new Electricity Act is a fundamental, one of the most fundamental and consequential pieces of legislation that you see in Nigeria. It has detailed provision on almost every aspect of electricity engagement in Nigeria. One of the things I will just mention, there are a lot of things, so let me just mention some of the critical or significant ones. Before the Electricity Act 2023, customers were only like like there were only passive players in the industry. Customers, okay, if they want to invest in the networks of the utilities, the framework is only through what we call a regulation of the commission called investment in the networks regulation. So the new Electricity Act, in a significant move, now has introduced a whole section, a whole provision in the act trying to protect the interests of consumers in Nigeria or customers in Nigeria by saying that a customer is allowed to contribute or is allowed to invest in the network of either the distribution companies or the transmission companies. So if a customer does that, the act now says that the commission will recognize that investment. So what I'm trying to say is that a customer now, there is a statutory flavor and provision in the act that recognizes any investment that is properly made by a customer. A customer can make investment in a utility. For example, if you purchase a transformer as a customer, or if you purchase something, but you follow through the process because there is a purpose. You just don't go and market and buy transformer. No, there is a whole process in the regulation called investment in the network. If you comply with that, then you will get your own refund. So this is one of the areas where customers are helped by the new Electricity Act. Another area that is very clear in the new act is that when you look at the all act, and there were a lot of cases even before now about who the if there is a tenant occupying a place and he left the place with some unpaid bills, and then a new tenant comes into the premise, and the distribution company, because usually they deal with the property, they will come and slam the new tenant with that outstanding bills. But so it is very clear in the new Electricity Act that the distribution company will not recover any amount from a tenant that is not responsible for accumulating that bill. So this is another section that protects a customer. Another thing that the act that helps a customer is the issue of what some people call investment or new services that a customer can play. Because as earlier I said that NEC drives value creation in the industry by setting standard, and this standard could be new standards and traditional standards. And what they mean by the new standard are standard whereby customers, through the instrumentality of net metering, can be able to contribute to integration of especially green or solar energy in the power mix in the country. So it's another way of the new Electricity Act as helps a customer. There are a lot of things that the act. So let me just stop here for now and go to the
Yes, please. And then the
second question.
second question. Thank you very much.
So the second question you asked about if there is a dispute between a customer and a distribution company. So the way it is now is that um, NEC will not have any regulatory oversight in any state that has requested for regulatory responsibility on issues that are intrastate activities or interstate. In America, they call it intrastate. In Nigeria, in the act, we call it intrastate. So if there is a customer has a dispute, usually it will not, if that state has already taken, has received its own responsibility, then it will not come to NEC. NEC will not have any business in dealing with a customer issue with the utility. Thank you.
Okay, so wonderful. Thank you. And just before we let you take a bow, we have two more questions. The first is, does the Limitation Act of 6 years for debt recovery apply to the distribution companies when it comes to billing? As for example, when an outstanding is brought after 8 years. So that's one of the questions asking about the limitation um, for bringing claims against distribution companies. And then the second is, while you were speaking, I believe you made reference to the forum. So someone is asking whether the forum is a unit within the discos or within NERC.
Okay, so these are the
Yes.
questions. So for the limitation, I'm not sure if it applies to distribution companies. I'm not sure this applies to them, but the standard practice is that the distribution companies are required to uh, so uh, if you look at the act itself, it says that it is clear. It says that the any provision in the act or any other law shall not prohibit the recovery of arrears of charges for electricity supply. So there is no any limitation. Once you have consumed electricity, you will have to pay it. It's clear in the act. It says that nothing should prevent the distribution company from recovery of arrears of electricity that is supplied. This is commercial uh, transaction. So it's clear, it's provided, it's statutory, it's provided in the act. So
Yes,
what
that's
is
very clear. Thank you. The second one is whether the forum is a unit within NERC or the discos.
no, forum is not a unit within NEC or within DISCO. Forum, just
Okay.
like we said, is CCU that is a unit within
Yeah,
the division
yeah.
company. Forum is not.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Mr. Kabir Adamu Garkuwa. Thank you so much for a wonderful session. Please, you want to use your emojis to give a round of applause, show him some appreciation. This has been a very enlightening session, even for me. I mean, I have heard of situations where, especially the one as it relates to a new tenant having to take on the burden of paying electricity tariffs that were accumulated by a former tenant. I didn't know that there was a provision for that would protect consumers in that type of situation. Thank you so much, sir, for this very enlightening session. We are very, very grateful. Thank you. And now, moving on to just before we segue into the next session, like I said at the beginning of this seminar, we're going to be having some very exciting breaks in between where people are going to get to win prizes. You know, most things you do in life are going to go rewarded. Some people usually say, well, your reward is in heaven. But for this particular seminar, I can assure you that your reward is here on earth. In fact, it is available this afternoon. And someone or a group of people are going to be getting their rewards. So the first reward we're going to be giving out today, courtesy of Hallbridge Solicitors, is for the first person who joined the webinar. So the first person who joined the webinar, I could have taken it because I think I'm the first person who joined, but I'm pretty sure that they won't let me. And barring me, we have, drum roll please, the first person who joined the webinar today and is going to be getting the reward of a textbook, not just any textbook, one that if you have to buy, you have to order from Amazon and you have to wait for a number of days, and it's not something that you can just walk in anywhere and see. And it's also tied to the subject matter of this event. The person winning that today is Adeni Raphael Alade Yelu. Please forgive me if I didn't pronounce your name properly, but I'm sure that as you heard the first two, Adeni Raphael, you know it's you. Congratulations, Raphael. Congratulations. If you're here, just drop a message in the chat box telling us that you can see this. We've already posted, there's a message there for you on how to go about with claiming your prize. And that's just the first for today. We have a number of them lined up. Raphael is going to be winning a book titled Nigerian Electricity Industry Law. Congratulations, Raphael. I wish I were you right now, but books are expensive these days. But congratulations. And now moving on to the next session. The person who is going to be taking this session is the brain behind this webinar, and that has also made sure that it comes to life. I mean, you can definitely see the passion that he has for the subject matter, having made out the time and having brought these set of speakers together, and also making sure that the information gets to you so you can join. We're talking of no other person than Mr. Anthony Nwajugo, Esquire. He is the managing partner of Holbridge Solicitors, which is a full service law firm based here in Lagos, Nigeria. He obtained a Master of Law degree from the prestigious University of Lagos and is currently undergoing his PhD program in the University of Ibadan. He is the co-author of the text Nigerian Electricity Industry Law and Basics of Transitional Electricity Markets in Nigeria. He is the founder of Electric Power Reform and a major driver of electricity law development in Nigeria. He has made numerous contributions to the electricity sector in Nigeria, and this is only but one of them, as you can see. And he'll be speaking to us today for the next 20 minutes on the topic, the appraisal of tariff regime as it affects investment in the distribution sector of the Nigerian electricity supply industry. A round of applause as he takes the stage.
Good afternoon, Albright, for that warm welcome. And before I proceed, I want to thank Mr. Kabir Kakua. It was a wonderful delivery. I learned a lot from that, your delivery. Anytime I have the opportunity of being in any webinar where Mr. Kakua will speak, I don't mind whatever it takes. I have to be there, because if you are talking of electricity regulation, if you need anything about electricity regulation, he's the one to go to. And it's a great pleasure having you here, sir. So I'll get on with my presentation, which is appraisal of tariff regime as it affects the Nigerian electricity industry law, or as it affects the Nigerian electricity industry. Okay. So I want to share screen of my presentation.
By all means, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I'll carry on, but as the screen comes up, then I will pick up from where I stopped. So by way of introduction, the Nigerian electricity supply industry plays a critical role in the country's socio-economic development. Following years of underperformance by the state-run Power Holding Company of Nigeria, that's PHCN as we all know it, the repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 ushered in a new era of privatization and liberalization, and which transition is further sustained by the new Electricity Act of 2023. A central concern in the reform process is the development and implementation of a viable tariff regime that encourages private investment, especially in the distribution segment of the electricity value chain. This paper appraises the prevailing tariff regime and its implications for investment in Nigeria's electricity distribution sector vis-a-vis consumer complaints against electricity tariff. And to properly understand this topic of discussion, let us analyze the concept of electricity tariff. Meaning of electricity tariff. What does electricity tariff mean? Tariff in simple terms entails a rate at which a person is charged for public services such as gas and electricity, or for accommodation or services. An electricity tariff, on the other hand, is the price charged by an energy provider for the electricity consumed by a consumer. It is essentially the rate at which electricity is sold and can vary based on factors like time of day, quantity of electricity used, and the type of tariff offered. Under the Electricity Act of 2023, particularly Section 232, I think that's the interpretation section of that law, it defines electricity tariff as a tariff approved by the Commission under the provisions of this Act that specifies the prices, terms, and conditions under which electricity service is to be provided. Now, I will get on to overview of tariff regime in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. Regulatory framework. As we all know, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission is the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, hereinafter referred as the Commission, is the major regulator or the apex regulator of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, which was established under Section 33 of the Act. The Commission, as the regulator of the electricity market, is charged with several functions under the Act. But with respect to the topic of this discussion, which is appraisal of investments in electricity industry, the Commission, which is NEC, is faced with a tripod competing issues, and which are: one, maximizing access to electricity services by promoting and facilitating consumer connections to distribution systems in both rural and urban areas in a bid to ensure adequate electricity. Then two, the Commission is also charged with the challenge of ensuring that the electricity supplied to consumers by the licensees, and when I make mention of licensees here, I mean companies or people working in the electricity supply industry that are licensed under the relevant provisions of the Act. Now, so the second issue that NEC is faced in this slide is ensuring that electricity supplied to consumers by licensees or distribution companies are fair. And then the third is one, actualizing a tariff regime that allows the licensees or electricity distribution companies to finance their company operations and make reasonable profit for efficient operation from return of tariff payments made by electricity consumers. NEC, in reconciling and achieving the above mentioned functions and activities, have designed a tariff methodology known as the multi-year tariff order, which will be discussed hereunder. Now, before I get on discussing on the issue of activities, before I get on discussing the issue of the multi-year tariff order, which is also known as MITO, I will have to highlight the activities that are subject to the electricity tariff regime. Under Section 116 of the Electricity Act, it provides for activities which is covered under the electricity industry. Those activities are generation, trading, transmission, distribution, supply. It also covers issues of electricity distribution franchising, which is one of the improvements that were made in the Electricity Act of 2023. So I'll get on discussing what a multi-year tariff order means. The multi-year tariff order, MITO in short, is developed by NEC, serves as a primary pricing framework for the industry. MITO is designed to provide a 15-year tariff pathway with specific minor, usually biannual, and major, usually 5 years reviews. It seeks to ensure a cost-reflective pricing mechanism that allows operators to recover reasonable costs and as well earn return on investment. As you all are aware, the summary of this is the fact that any person who comes into business is coming into business for a primary purpose, and which is to make profit. So the essence of this MITO, as designed by NEC, is that the investors who are in different sectors or segments of the electricity industry, ranging from the generation industry to the distribution industry, transmission industry, supply chain industry, franchising, and all whatnot. Those people got into this industry in the first place for them to make profit. And so the multi-year tariff order is designed in such a way to make sure that as much as the MITO is designed to create a fair value system that protects the consumers, it is also tailored to create a cost-reflective regime, which is one that guarantees that the people who have invested in this business will recoup their investment in the first place and will also make reasonable profit. You also, I believe that some of the people who are here are owners of businesses. They own diverse businesses. So, and you know, to run a business involves as well employing staffs, running operational costs, and all whatnot. And to this effect, NEC has looked into a mechanism that allows this business not just to recoup its costs, but also to make reasonable profits from its investment in the industry. Now, under the multi-year tariff order, it's categorized electricity consumers into 5 major plan or categorization. Now, we have people in band A, we have people in band B, we have people in band C, we also have people in band D and in band E. I created a chart to describe the people who, or the way, to describe the way in which NEC has categorized electricity consumers as regards issue of pricing. And the chart which is reflected here on is the approved tariff for a co-distribution company. I had to take a co-distribution company as a case study in this discussion. Now, I will look at another issue or another concept that was introduced by NEC in order to balance the competing rights of ensuring a fair tariff to consumers, and as well ensuring that the investors in this industry recoup their investment, and as well as regards the issue of cost, and as well make reasonable profit, is what we call a service-based tariff. Now, in the year 2020, the service-based tariff model was designed and introduced by NEC to link tariff increases with improved service delivery. Now, as much as, because this service-based tariff, I wouldn't go so much into it because I believe another speaker will also be deliberating on this issue. Now, this service-based tariff is an invention that came as a result of clamor by electricity distribution companies and other licensees. Now, when we say distribution companies, because that's the one that most consumers are familiar with, those are the people that it relates directly with the consumer. However, we have generation companies, we have transmission, and that's independent system operators, because the transmission company has been unbundled into independent system operators. So we have those people who also play in the electricity industry. And the service-based tariff, when those people were clamoring that we are not recouping our investments, these things are choking us, we are running into debt. So the NEC, in its wisdom, invented what they call a service-based tariff. Now, this service-based tariff was invented to complement the issues of increment of tariff in order to compensate the licensees for the clamor that they are making for increment in the tariff. But as well, NEC has now put a burden as well on them for them to give a service reflective of the increment that is made in the tariff. What this thing entails is this, because we have had issues where people argue, what is the difference between prepaid customer and estimated customer? Now, in Nigeria, what we understand to be a prepaid customer is a customer that has prepaid meter. However, that concept is totally misplaced in the sense that the idea of being a prepaid customer means that there is actually a service, an uninterrupted service that is available for delivery. Yes. So if you are saying that I'm prepaid, what it means is that once I have the funds to pay for whatever I'm doing or whatever I need, just like electricity, it ought to be delivered to me 24 hours. That's what it means. And so NEC, in his wisdom, is saying that you have to improve on the issues of your infrastructure, distribution infrastructure, to make sure that as much as you are recouping, we have made increment in your tariff clamor. Now you also have to make sure that whatever service that you are offering to consumers will be reflective of this increment that has been made. We'll go on to discuss what are even the components of a tariff. Now, under Section 116 of the Act, which captured the activities of subject to tariff regulation by NEC, this tariff constitutes of several components. Now, when I mean components, I mean what constitutes, what does NEC or what does the stakeholders in the industry, electricity industry, look together, factor in together to come up with this, and these figures will be the tariff, and which are one: cost of generation, transmission, and distribution. Now, I will explain this. What you get as your power supply in your home, it's a ripple effect of the generation of the power, first from a generation company that have generated it either through a gas-based turbine or through hydropower or through windmill, any of the renewable power sources. And after same has been generated, the electricity which was generated will be loaded to the transmission network. Now, what is the transmission network? The transmission network constitutes of all those high voltage transmission grid that you see while you are in the major expressways that carry electricity right from the generation companies. And now it dumps it at a transformer for the distribution companies. Now it steps down a distribution transformer, which steps down the electricity. And once that is done, now that electricity is now fit and will be now supplied to you. So you can see that the electricity that you are taking now is not just a product of the distribution company that you know. They are not the ones that generate it. They purchase from a transmission, which from the transmission company. Now, in between the transmission company, during the issue of privatization, the drafters of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act knew that there will be a lot of challenges between the distribution companies, which are just getting into the privatized sector, paying for the electricity which is being consumed or which they are purchasing from the generation company. So in order to prevent this quagmire, the transmission company as of then was not privatized. Rather, what we had was a situation whereby management was given to a transmission company, which then was Manitoba, and they now manage. In between all of this, we now have a trader, which is the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trader, who gives a guarantee of debt reconciliation between distribution companies and generation companies. So there is a debt settlement mechanism that was created by the invention of MBET to make sure that we don't have a situation whereby probably electricity distribution company would have bought electricity from a generation company, and maybe he hadn't paid for the one that he bought, and then the generation company says, I will not sell again. And because he says, I will not sell, now the country is launched on a total collapse and breakdown. So in order to buffer the system, MBET was created. So now in driving or creating a tariff methodology for the industry, a cost is tied to one, generation, transmission, and distribution. Because in between all of these things, there are different price mechanisms that work through. So this is one of the components that is factored in creating the tariff for the electricity industry. Now, second is technical, commercial, and collection losses. Now, in all of these issues, during the point of electricity generation to transmission and distribution, that's what they call transmission losses. There's also what is called distribution losses. So these are technical issues that is being factored in by the tariff methodology in order to make sure that whatever tariff methodology that is being adopted by NEC will reflect these issues and wouldn't translate as a total loss both to the players, the stakeholders, like the generation, transmission, distribution company, and the consumers as well. So now, also the issues of inflation and foreign exchange rates are factored in, and then the issues of gas prices are also factored in coming to what is the appropriate tariff for electricity supply in Nigeria. So I'll get on to effects of tariff regime on investment in the distribution sector. I don't want to get into the issue of transmission and generation. Let us focus on distribution sector. Why? Because this paper is focused on the issue of consumer rights protection as it relates to electricity industry. And those rights and clamors by the consumers are a resultant effect of relationship between distribution companies and the consumers. So let us leave out the issue of generation and transmission now. Maybe in our subsequent webinars, we can talk about such issues. But for now, let us analyze the issues of costs of investment in the distribution sector of electricity industry. So, following the unbundling of the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, 11 successor distribution companies were created, which are both Eko, Abuja, Benin, Enugu, Ibadan, Ikija, Jos, Kaduna, Kano, Port Harcourt, Yola. So these distribution companies were sold to private owners or companies, and we will still resort using a co-distribution company as a case study in analyzing the estimated cost of investment in the distribution sector of the industry. Now, on 14th of March 2013, Premium Times reported that West Power and Gas Consortium was the preferred bidder to purchase majority stake, which is 60% in a co-distribution company, with a sum of $33.75 million. Now, this represents the 25% initial payment to the Bureau of Public Enterprise, as the total payment for the entire 60% stake holding in a co-distribution company is the sum of $135 million, representing 22 billion naira. Now, this 22%, this 25% deposit amount in naira translates to roughly about 5 billion. Now, as of today, or as of the date in which this payment was made, let's even get to there. As of that date, I think $1 to naira was roughly about 162 naira. So you will appreciate and agree with me that this is actually a huge investment. Now, the question that comes is, will it be said to be a good or a bad one? And the answer to it will depend on a lot of factors, which include, one, how correct are the metrics that were adopted by NEC in arriving at the value of distribution company in the first place? Now, these same metrics, did they factor on issues of the depreciation of the distribution infrastructures? Now, are the investments realizable within a period of 10 years? Were there provisions for infrastructure upgrade? These are questions. that keep boggling at looking at the amount that was invested in purchasing just one distribution company. And now comes the question as to a person who has made such investment, will he not recover his investment? And this brings us to the next issue, and which is analysis, and which is investment opportunities and challenges in the electricity distribution sector of Nigeria, vis-a-vis the issues of tariff. In discussing this, I would make reference to a chart which I think I got that chart from NEC website as to might, because we have seen what was the average cost of purchase of a good distribution company. Now let us look at the investment opportunity and challenges faced by this same ECO within the timeline of frame with this purchase. Now, to appreciate this issue, the chart I have projected here, I think I will zoom in. The chart I projected here is showing that as of the year 2012, by MITO regulated revenue requirements, that is the revenue that probably would have accrued from this distribution company. I don't know if the zooming of this thing is showing the exact figure. If you look clearly down there, you will see. You see grand total, all these schools, grand total, all these schools. You will see the amount that was projected as of the year 2012, and which is 737,542,942,000. So this is the grand total regulated revenue. Now, when we talk of revenue, we've not talked of issues of expenditures and other deductibles from the revenue. Now, but if this is the figure, I believe that there are some students of mathematics in this class. So if this is the figure for the year 2012 to 2013, because the MITO for 2012 runs to June 2013. So if this is the figure for the 11 distribution companies, all these schools, what it means is that for a co-distribution company, working on the assumption and parameters that this figure will be distributed evenly across the 11 distribution companies, what it is that we will be having about 67 billion as a projected revenue, regulated revenue for a co-distribution company within the same year that West Power and Gas Consortium took over the company. This figure clearly implies that ECO's revenue for 1 year, not factoring expenditures, has already covered their initial investments. So one cannot say whether these forecasts and projections by NEC are in tandem with realities or were they even achieved. However, over the years, it appears that the projections of NEC under the MITO, the initial MITO, the first MITO, the 2008 to 2013 MITO, is actually unrealistic, as most of the electricity distribution companies are now laden with debt. And it is no longer a question of conjectures or opinions. On the 12th of March, currently, just about last month, Business newspaper reported that Business Day newspaper reported that more electricity distribution companies are at risk of being taken over by the regulators due to worsening liquidity crisis, and which was captured in this quote. He said, Business Day findings showed that these schools are teetering on brink of insolvency, unable to meet their financial obligation amid rising operational costs, mounting debt, and declining revenue collections. So it is also pertinent to note that recently, West Power and Gas Consortium has divested their interest in a co-distribution company. Yes, they have divested their interest. Now, their 60% stake has now been sold to Transgrid Eneco. Yes, with at the cost of about $200,000 US. So the question that comes to mind at this point is, was this sale as a result of a lot of profitability? But that can be true. Why? Because the pro share that's reported this news, he said that This sale was made to Transgrid Eneco, a consortium of North-South Power, Axela Limited, and Stanbic IBTC Infrastructure Growth Fund, for majorly as a way to raise funds for a coal distribution company to meet up with its electricity obligations. Now, this clearly negates the projection which was made by NEC, thereby resulting to issues of investors' disappointment. So, we'll look at challenges to investment. Now, some of the challenges to investment are as follows. Some of the challenges to investment in the electricity industry are as follows. One, tariff shortfalls and subsidies. Okay, despite efforts, tariffs has often remained below cost recovery level. That is why we have issues of subsidy regimes, which is still very much preeminent. Now, necessitating government subsidies through mechanisms like power sector recovery programs. These subsidies were invented to mitigate consumer burden and distort market signals and deter private investment. Yes, these are some of the challenges that is being faced. Why? Because if the tariff that is being charged for this industry is not reflective of what actually ought to be charged, what it means is that the distribution companies who are playing in this industry cannot even appreciate the real cost of investment. Now, the third issue or the second issue of investment challenge is regulatory and political interference. Now, we had frequent political interference in tariff setting, especially during election cycles, which creates regulatory uncertainty and discourages investors. I also list other issues, which is macroeconomics volatility. When we talk about this, we are making reference to issues of inflation, exchange rate fluctuation. We will all appreciate that. Right in 2013, dollar to naira was going for 162 per dollar. But as of today, dollar to naira is going for about 1,600 naira. Now, the person who has ventured into this industry with the metrics and the factors that he is going to make profit, he cannot. It's not a 100% increase within a short period of about, let's say, 10 years. It's not 100%, it's not 200, it's not 300. It has an over 1,000% increase. And in fact, in economics, that is what they call, or what the economics factor in as a significant changing factor that will undermine whatever economic metrics that an investor would have come into a sector with. So now the issues that come to play is how will an investor who is met with this kind of challenges survive and recover from these issues. Now, before I get into that, I want to highlight that the challenges that we have seen, including the issues of macroeconomics, cross-subsidization, issues of lifeline and residential customers paying below cost for higher paying customers who are now subsidizing them, issues of macroeconomics volatility, tariff shortfalls, and regulatory and political interference. All of these issues results in one. I have itemized the two major issues from my reviews that I have done, or what I call research statistics that I've done, which is one, heavy reliance by distribution companies on estimated billing. I will not get in so much as to issues of estimated billing, because I think there is a speaker that will tell us true on that issue. And in fact, I can't even wait to have him speak on this. So, but on a summary perspective, estimated billing refers to a system where customers' electricity usage is calculated based on an estimate rather than an accurate meter reading. So this typically happens when meter is unavailable or inaccessible. So if there is an issue with reading meter, that is where you see distribution companies resort to estimated billing. But I will now shock you that beyond the issues of whether there is meter fault, whether there is this thing, NEC have done a lot of programs, have done a lot of regulations, done a lot of policies, which will encourage this group for them to make prepaid meter available for consumers. But electricity distribution. Yeah, okay, I'm rounding up. Just
yes, thank
yes,
you
I'm
very
rounding
much.
up.
Please remember to drop your questions. Thank you so much.
All right. So now, this, notwithstanding all of these policies that have been put in place by NEC, it will interest you that distribution companies, they don't want you to have prepaid meter. They prefer unestimated billing. Yes, because where is even the light? Is it not when there is light that the meter that you have purchased will start reading? And these people need to survive. They need to make profit. So in order to circumvent this, they will rather turn a blind eye to all of this policy or sabotage it even, to make sure that there are places that are paying them heavily, and they will keep giving estimated billing to those people in order to find a way to recover costs, which is not, it's nothing to write home about and should not be in any way applauded. But there is a converse effect of it, and which is for us to look deeply and reconcile the issues of tariff and cost reflective regime. Now, secondly, we have the issues of billing invariance to NEC approved tariff. This one is one that played out from the issue, a case, Petadi's shop versus HFP Properties. It was a case that was decided by NEC in the year 2008, where an agent of a co-distribution company was actually billing people arbitrarily. In fact, NEC had to caution that beyond the fact that these people are not even licensed people, that they are billing, which is in total neglect of what NEC has approved. So because their argument during the hearing was that they are agents of a conditional company. He said you can't go beyond the authority of your principal. They are actually billing in arbitral manner beyond what NEC has approved. And these are some of the effects of investors or distribution companies not realizing a cost reflective regime that helps them to realize their investment. Now, I wouldn't conclude without mentioning some of the positive approaches that have been invented by NEC. Within the year 2020, 2021, there was a lot of clamor as to, incrementing tariff, electricity tariff. That was because, one, NEC has advanced in coming up with what is called a cost reflective tariff. And they referred to it as well, SBT framework, which is service-based tariff, that as much as this is trying to be cost reflective, the service must as well be in tandem with the tariff that is being charged. Now, performance incentive. The performance incentive is the SBT model encourages discos to improve supply quality to assess higher tariff and potential investments. Now, we also have Power Sector Recovery Program, which was initiated in 2017 and outlines government commitment to eliminate tariff shortfalls and enhance sector's financial viability through targeted subsidy reforms. Now, the Electricity Sector Reform Act of Electricity Act of 2023 also decentralizes the electricity regulation, hereby allowing states, I think by my very good brother and friend Gakua made mention of that, the states can now make laws for generation, transmission, and distribution within their region, within their jurisdiction. So this could introduce multiple tariff regime and will influence what they call a competitive level advantage or a competitive issue, yes, in the industry. Why? Because if you know, if I don't buy from Mr. A, I can buy from Mr. B. Now, that is the essence of electricity decentralization. So we'll get on to implications for investments. We have the issues of foreign direct investment, domestic investment issues, and access to finance. So recommendations. One of the recommendations that I made in this paper is full deregulation of tariff. Yes, let us have a full deregulation of tariff. Whatever we are paying for electricity, let it be a cost, let it be the exact tariff. But a converse recommendation to this is one, we are also asking for a transparent tariff review. Yes, a transparent tariff review, which also holds the discos accountable, as well, not just the discos, but everyone in the electricity value chain, to make sure that whatever you are charging us as this, make sure that power is available as I went to purchase, so that once I have paid for that which have cost me, just like I can drive into the filling station and I buy whatever I want to buy, fill up my car, let it be available at all times. So those are part of the issues. So we also say, I was also making a recommendation that enhance regulatory independence, shield NEC from political influence to foster investors' confidence, performance-based incentive, link tariff increase to disclose investment in infrastructure and service improvement, because one of the challenges that we are having, or the discourse are complaining, oh, we made a lot of investment in this industry. We didn't know that all the infrastructures are moribund. We didn't know. So now, if you want a higher tariff, please improve your infrastructure, your distribution infrastructure. Those are part of the recommendations that we have made. We have also said harmonize tariff structure under the Electricity Act. Create a national framework to prevent regulatory fragmentation across states, so that we don't have a situation whereby Lagos is charging this, because that's what we're actually seeing. NEC is now adopting a mindset for different distribution companies. Well, because I had a situation whereby someone called from Ibadan and he said, I wanted to recharge, but Ibadan Disco said that a minimum recharge I can recharge is from 5,000 and above. And I said, it is wrong. It is totally wrong. It is not approved by NEC, any regulation of NEC. So, in conclusion, tariff regime in the electricity industry significantly influences investment decisions, particularly in the distribution sector. While initiatives like MITO, SBT, and other subsidy incentives have laid foundation for cost recovery, persistent regulatory, political, economic challenges continue to undermine investors' confidence. A consistent, transparent, economic, viable tariff structure supported by a robust legal and regulatory framework is what is imperative to attracting and sustaining investment in the Nigeria's power distribution sector. And hence, if we want to see this industry work, I believe that it does not just hold on NEC and distribution companies, but it also holds on the consumer to get ready, fasten their seatbelt, because what we are paying now is actually not cost reflective for any investor in the distribution sector of the electricity industry. Thank you so much, and I believe that people who attended this webinar enjoyed it. Thank you so much, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nwajiego. That was quite a session. In fact, I'm sure that at this point, if anyone was not on your side, everybody is definitely agreeing with you as to I am with your conclusions and your recommendations. Thank you so much for shedding light on the situation and for bringing clarity to what is currently on ground as it relates to the power sector. So I believe that there are a number of questions. Having listened to this, I'm sure that we have questions. So please just send your questions in the comment section. We're going to take your questions, and while we are on that, like I said, some goodies here and there for the most active participants that we've had so far from the beginning of the session to this moment. We're going to be giving out airtime. So please, Okuchuku Udebwani and Mabel Saliu, you've been very active. Congratulations. Kudos to you. Please do well to send your phone numbers and your network provider in the comment box, so recharge you. I'm sure that airtime is a big deal these days with the amount that we're paying for data. I really wish I were you right now, but congratulations. Please send your phone number and your network provider. Just put it in the comment box. Just before we take the final speaker, let's have a number of, let's just ask a few questions. And very important, please, we have certificates for those that would stay to the end of this session. We have certificates for you. This has been quite a session, so you want to be able to prove that you attended, you were here, you learned. You never know where it's going to come in handy. So I know that there were some people were on, but they left for one reason or the other. Probably network. Please reach out to them to join, because at the end of the session, we're going to be giving out certificates to all of you. Okay, sir. As concerning your presentation, how has the current electricity tariff regime influenced
the private sector investments in Nigeria's power distribution sector. Do you think that investors have been encouraged, or they've mostly been discouraged and they are leaving? Also, to what extent does MITO provide a stable and transparent pricing structure that attracts long-term investments? If you could speak to that, and that would be lovely. And finally, are there proposed reform? I know that you already gave a few like proposed reforms in concluding, but are there any additional proposed reforms to tariff structure that aim to balance investor confidence with consumer affordability in the distribution sector?
Okay. Thank you so much, moderator, for this question. So I will start with the first question, which is, how has the current electricity tariff regime influenced private sector investment in Nigeria power distribution sector? So, I think the question basically are the investors encouraged or discouraged? Now, the question is neither. The answer to this question is neither here nor there. I am not a distribution company, but my opinion or my view as to this is in a two-pronged approach. And what is this? If we look at the NEC projected forecast as of the year 2012 to 2013, yes, I think I shared a slide on that. The projection is that a distribution company would have made, yes, that a distribution company would have made on the average, if we go by what NEC has projected, on the annual average, 67 billion naira. Yes, that was what was projected, 2012, 2013. So, and we are aware, West Power and Gas bought Eco Distribution Company for the sum of 22 billion. If it is less, I don't know, but this was what was published in the newspaper. This was what was published, that the Bureau of Public Enterprise sold Eco for 22 billion. So if I bought a product and in 1 year, a company have recovered my money, the projection of business is that at least within 5 years, you would have broken even, and then you're not getting into issues of revenue, issues of profit, and all whatnot. But if in 1 year I break even, what it means is that the business is good. It is wonderful. So, but notwithstanding this projection, what we are hearing from the news, if they are true, it is left for us to know. These are purpose of research and other academic work for us to know whether they are true or not. But from what we are hearing from the news is that these distribution companies are complaining bitterly that they are in debt. So it brings a question as to because someone will not say that maybe these complaints are true or false. But we know that there are issues of corruption. There are issues whereby companies are not being very much forthcoming. Why? Because the industry is one that is regulated. So, but if from this report, from the distribution companies, that they are true, that actually, we're in debt and we are crying. For instance, you could say, I have cried so much to the point that I now have to sell my stake in to another company because Eco bought West Power bought Eco Distribution Company at the cost of $135 million, and now they are selling to an Eco Transgrid Consortium Limited at the cost of 200 million. That is for a period of roughly, let's say, 12 years, that they have made just a profit of about something billion. In all honesty, if I am to say, I wouldn't feel very encouraged that is a very good business projection. That's true, unless maybe what we are seeing is not a true reflection. So to answer this question, it is neither here nor there. But in truth, if what we are seeing with what is playing out with Eco relinquishing their interest, their 60% stake to another company, saying, oh, the heat is too much, we are bolting out. If that be the case, because from the report in the news, they say the reason they made that sale was because they are trying to recover. They're trying to inject more funds. So if that be the case, then what it means is that probably the industry is not that viable. However, we have known that the issues of corruption, the issues of the industry not being too altruistic, or the players in the industry not being too altruistic, with all deference to NEC, now brings us to the issue of the fact that I don't see any reason why someone who has been in business for 10 years continues to be in that business, and yet the business is dying, and you continue to be in the business. So we wouldn't get into the issues of who are actually the owners of these distribution companies. Are they getting poorer? Are they getting richer? Or what are we hearing in the news? Just a question of the company dying, and then the people that own it getting better. So these are all issues that call for us to look inwardly and tell ourselves the truth. But looking at the way that the regulatory framework of the industry, I will say that the industry has been designed by NEC is one that is prone towards viability, one that has even gone on to bring out certain elements of cost-reflective tariff, and which should encourage investors. But you know, if there are regulatory loopholes and lapses, that is where you see that, notwithstanding the fact that the industry might be wonderful, but the people who are in there will tell you it's not wonderful. But they are keep making this thing, because a company by its making is a conglomerate of human beings. So the company might be shouting, I'm dying, but the human beings inside the company are well-fed. So it's a question that is neither here nor there. But let us continue to, that's the essence of this discussion, for us to pry into it and let us even get out of this. So that's for that first question. The second question is, to what extent does the multi-tariff order provide a stable and transparent pricing structure that attracts long-term investment? So I itemized certain issues while I was discussing this paper as to what NEC has done, and which is the 2024 tariff methodology, the MITO, is actually a cost-reflective tariff methodology. Yes, or I wouldn't use the word cost-reflective, but it is driving towards cost-reflective tariff methodology, because there is still an argument, both from the stakeholders, that this is actually still not cost-reflective. That is not that we are having issues as to tariff shortfalls. So people are still contending that, but NEC has come up with a tariff methodology that I believe is driving towards a cost-reflective tariff. Now, also, NEC, the MITO of 2024, have also introduced what they call a performance incentive, which is a service-based tariff model, which encourages the discos for them to, if you improve your supply quality, then you have access to higher tariffs and potential investment. That is why you see that probably a co-distribution company tariff is a bit higher than distribution tariff. Yes, and that is because of issues of improvement, which NEC has looked at. Mr. A, who is in Lagos, cannot be doing so much to improve his infrastructure, and then Mr. B, who is probably in somewhere else, he doesn't want to do that. So those issues have been factored in. Also, the issue of power sector recovery program is one that NEC has introduced as a means to eliminate tariff shortfalls and enhance sector's financial viability. So yes, I will say with my full chest that the multi-year tariff order has provided what seems or what appears to look like a stable and a transparent pricing structure that will attract long-term investments. Now, are there any proposed reforms to tariff structures that aim to balance investor confidence with consumer affordability? Yes, there are. There are proposed reforms to balance that issue. In fact, this question, I think, is almost the same with the second question, because the issue of service-based tariff methodology model or service-based tariff model is one that says, oh, improve your distance for the consumers, then you have access to higher tariff. Now, oh, as much as we are trying to make sure that this tariff is okay, we are also trying to protect the consumers so that the consumers don't get on paying for what they do. So, and that even goes to the issue of the estimated payment of people who are paying for what they don't use. So, but I wouldn't go into it because I think the next speaker will discuss it. But I hope I've answered this question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Such an enlightening session, and we still have a number of questions because so many people enjoyed your presentation, but because of time, we're already behind time. We would have to take the conversation offline. So, everyone who still has any questions, please do well to reach out to Hullbridge solicitors. You can reach out to them via email, LinkedIn, or any of their other social media accounts. Where, like I said, this present topic is an ongoing one, and the conversation is still as fiery and as interesting. So do well to lend your voices. And I'm sure that Mr. Anthony is still open to, continuing with the conversation. So we're quickly going to go into our final session for today. We crave your indulgence to give us, an extra 30 minutes of your time. As you can see, we didn't start on time because we had to wait for people to join. But we're going to be wrapping up very shortly. Just before we take the final session, for those who intend to stay until the end of this webinar, please do well to put your full name in the comment box, because like I said, we'll be issuing out certificates to as proof that you attended the webinar, and we wouldn't want to spell your name wrongly or not write the correct nomenclature for you. So please just put your full names in the comment box. And for our final session today, we're going to be speaking about the safeguards to protect consumers from arbitrary electricity tariff increase, curbing the menace of estimated billing. And the person taking that session is Dr. Fodil Olanrewaju Mohammed Noah. He is an energy law expert, electricity rights advocate, fellow, Center for Petroleum, Energy, Economics, and Law from the University of Ibadan. He's an associate in chambers at Wale Taiwan Co. and principal counsel at MC Noah and Associates, Lagos State. He attended the University of Ibadan for his first degree between 1997 and 2002, after which he was enrolled for his LLM in the same university between 2007 and 2009. He was also enrolled for his PhD program in 2017 and has successfully completed same with an award in energy law. Dr. Mohammed Noah's area of research interest has been electricity law regulations. You're welcome. So I can see you're already sharing your screen, gearing and ready to go. Please say
good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. May I stand on the existing protocol, please? I want to break this news. Maybe my colleagues that spoke earlier did not take that into account. And to speak on estimated billing, I don't know whether you are aware that NEC slammed some fines on 8 discos yesterday for flouting estimated billing rules. That was the position, to show that NEC is doing its best, only that the institution was taking in what more than it can chew. So the theme remains: safeguards to protect consumers from arbitrary electricity tariff increase, then copying the menace of estimated billing. That is the sub-themes that I'm to speak to. I have my outlines for this presentation, starting from introduction, legal regime governing electricity pricing in Nigeria. We have the MITO 2015 Minimum Remittance Order 2019. We have Service-Based Tariff Order of 2020. We have also cross-subsidization of electricity and the ban A palaver. We have estimated billing versus arbitrary tariff increase. And I conclude and comment. Electricity in Nigeria is driven primarily by non-markets. The measures have powerful impact on the perception of the product by Nigerians. They thought that electricity is a free good, like a social good that you can give out, rather than economic goods. Many people did not believe that they are going to pay for the service. That had been the position right from the onset. And federal government has spent a lot in billions of dollars to ensure that power sector works as expected, right from its independence. I came across some data that shows that we have spent, as at 2014, we have spent up to $60 billion to ensure that we have electricity. And my background is not for nothing to show that we don't have electricity yet. That's why you have the black background. We are energy poor economy. So despite all the spending, we did not have light. If we want to achieve electricity security as a goal in Nigerian electricity supply industry, we must ensure that we have proper electricity pricing mechanism. And that's what we call tariff system. And for us to have a proper tariff system, we must have a deployment of smart. Not only that, deployment of metric systems bring a lot of advantages to users. The distribution companies also will have a taste of it. Ordinarily, when we have meters, it will reduce the operation cost of the discos. It can even guarantee upfront revenue they have. And the consumers will have a better way of managing or controlling its electricity bills. What is the legal regime governing electricity pricing in Nigeria? First of all, we have Section 116 of the Electricity Act 2023, and that was the repealed Section 76 of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005. And it has its overall regulatory power from Section 227 of Electricity Act that gave the power to regulate to NEC. So we have the multi-year tariff order called MITO of 2015. Also, we have MITO 2015 and minimum remittance order of 2019. And we now have service-based tariff order of 2020. Those are the laws that govern pricing, electricity pricing in Nigeria over the. So what we are operating now is the SBT order of 2020. And it goes without saying that the SBT order came with it, with an order that if there is any estimated billing, ordinarily estimated billing is not illegal in a power sector, no. But the methodology involved is what the discos are flouting. For instance, under the SBT order, for those who do not have meters, there is a cap placed on it by that order in 2020. So that was what informed the fine that 8 discos, and you can be rest assured that Eco Disco was involved, Ikeja Electric was involved, Yola Disco, Kaduna Electric, Kano Disco, Abuja as usual, Enugu also. So combined together, 8 of them incurred 628 million naira for flouting that estimated billing cap for metered customers. Not only that, the fines go with that they must adjust, they must give the consumers who are affected credit adjustment for that purpose. So the regulator has done his best. It's left for us as consumers to know what to do, whether they comply with that order or not. So when we talk about the MITO 2015 and minimum remittance order of 2019, that's another issued by NEC to account for changes in minor review variables in determining cost reflective tariffs applicable and applicable tariffs. The goal is that we are still going towards cost reflective tariff, but the level of the market does not allow that for now. That's why we have what we call subsidies. It only allows for some tariffs that will take care of the right return on investments of the discos after taking care of their business cost. And we must take note that yes, electricity as a product is not a social product, but not also an economic product. It is too important a product to be left in the hands of businessmen. That is the essence of tariff regulation. We can't leave it to the hands of the operators who are taking advantage of the unsuspecting customers. And that MITO 2015 minimum remittance order 2019 appears to be the most comprehensive policy document governing electricity pricing in Nigeria. Only that we did not follow that order. It has taken care from 2019 to 2024 how all operators should behave. But they flouted it also. That was what led to the SBT. The policy document of MITO 2015 and minimum remittance order 2019 looks beautiful on paper. However, it was unable to achieve the desired objectives as a result of stakeholders' failure to commit, to dedicate, and to faithfully implement important parts of its provisions. These failures led to the sudden introduction of the service-based tariff. The operators were quick to shout that they wanted increase in tariff. It must be noted that as of 2010, 8 naira 50 kobo was the tariff. They were saying that it's not enough to support the market. So it was moved from 8 naira 50 kobo in 2010 to 22 naira per kilowatt hour. And now we have not stopped at that. Is as a user on band B classification customer, I'm paying for now 64 naira 90 kobo, and they promised me 16 hours energy on the average daily. I'm not having that, but I'm still paying that amount. Even those on band A were paying 209 naira 50 kobo for a promise of 20 hours minimum on the average daily. Even if they are not getting it, they are still paying that amount. Why can't we go along the line of the Ghana price mechanism in their end user tariff? There's nothing like band A, band B, band C. What they have is that the moment you are using maybe 300 kilowatt per hour, you go beyond that, you pay certain amount. Rather than putting permanently, some areas are band A, some areas are band D, band B, band C. Any customer that uses beyond certain threshold automatically can change to another price mechanism. So if that is done, maybe the operators will sit up. Service-based tariff also that we are now operating Yes, it's a well-intended policy made by the operator, by the regulator, that is NEC. It was designed to encourage power operators to invest in infrastructure and inspire improvement in supply of electricity to end users. That was the basis of the SBT tariff order. That was the basis. However, that policy only saw an exodus of bulk users of electricity, migrating towards the adoption of captive power as a reprieve from the crisis of unavailability of electricity to power their ailing industries. I can tell you for free that up to 250 institutions now, ranging from Dangote and other business company organizations and institutions are not left out, like the Bell University. They are now on captive power. And if all of them are put together in Nigeria, they are generating up to 6,500 megawatts of electricity. And we are yet to meet that as a nation. Over close to 100 years that we have been generating electricity in Nigeria. Close to 100 years. We are yet to meet that peak of 6,000 megawatts. It was lately we celebrated maybe 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago that we now generate up to 6,000 megawatts. We celebrated, but about 250 private entities in Nigeria generated up to 6,500 megawatts. And we cannot do without public utility. So the issue is not necessarily how much tariff we are to pay as end users. The issue is that the operators also are culpable. They are not ready to follow the rules of the game. Also, we have what we call cross-subsidization of electricity and the Band A palaver. When they realize that the SBT order is failing, the federal government, by NEC, put certain class of customers in Band A on 209.50 per kilowatt hour of electricity unit. It is left for you and I to confirm whether or not the concerned customers qualify for such upgrade. Also, whether or not the affected customers have consistent number of hours remains to be seen. Estimated, okay, let me quickly say this. No amount of tariff, even though if we pay 1,000 naira per kilowatt hour, that will not give us electricity if we do not take care of what is causing the darkness we are witnessing, and we are paying for darkness. That's how we put it. Let me now address this issue of estimated billing. Ordinarily, estimated billing is part of our system and is not a bad thing in electricity enterprise. For whatever reason, there may be a difficulty for operators to get the actual quantity of power you consume as a customer. For instance, you may lock up your building. If they don't have access to it, they won't have opportunity to quantify the amount of energy you have consumed for a particular period of time. So at that time, they are qualified to estimate your billing. So estimated billing is a system of charging unmetered electricity consumers for power consumed based on their previous usage without considering the actual quantity of power consumed. You can see that operative word. It must be based on their previous usage. In fact, there is a methodology of estimated billing in the estimated billing regulation of 2012 that NEC put in place. Are they following it? The answer is no. So it's even different from arbitrary tariff increase. I must say this, in Nigeria, there is no problem of such as to whether operator fix arbitrary tariff. No. They still follow the tariff. But the problem they do is through the evil committed or the flouting that is coming on by that's being carried on by the operators can be viewed in the estimated billing. The operators do not want meter. They do not want it. Yes, there is this NMP going on, National Mass Metering Program going on. It has started since 2020 or thereabout. The federal government is doing all its best to ensure that consumers have meter to actually confirm the amount of energy used. But I can tell you that operators are culprit. They don't want meter. I will show you as I'm going to conclude on why estimated billing is now seen as an evil thing. Arbitrary increase in tariff, called crazy bills, is when these stores are taking undue advantage of unmetered customers to rip off the latter without regard to regulation governing estimated billing. So you can look at this picture. This is a, without taking much of your time, this is just a summary of this analysis. This involves my own house as an end user. I have an experience of a period of 6 months between May 2018 to October 2018, around 6 months, by EcoDisco. They estimated as at that time, we were not on meter. So in my own, I am using just one self-contained, room and parlor self-contained. And I was estimated within 6 months to have consumed 4,598 kilowatt hour of energy. Around that time, it was 29 naira per kilowatt. So you can see the amount, 115,864 naira 60 kobo for 6 months. In fact, to be specific, sometimes in August of 2018, I was billed that I consumed over 1,009 kilowatts of electricity in 1 month. Then in November 2018, we were given meter. After series of efforts, I am on MD meter. So we are postpaid metered customer. So within a year or 11 months, so to say, that I was on metered consumption, I only consumed 758 kilowatt hour of electricity within 11 months. And that amounted to 21,988 naira for kobo. So look at the differences now. It means that if I am on meter, within a year, I was unable to consume up to 1,000 kilowatt hour of electricity. So you can now see there's a difference of 93,876 naira 56 kobo between estimated billing and metered billing. That is the reality of what people are going through when they are not metered. The regulation provides for the standardization of methods to be used by the DISCOs in the estimation of a consumer's power consumption and accruing bills, especially in instances where the DISCOs are unable to read the consumer's bill within a billing period for one reason or the other. For the avoidance of doubt, Regulation 2.2 of the estimated billing regulation of 2012 has this to say: where the DISCO is unable to obtain an actual meter reading at a customer's premises, the customer's electricity usage shall be estimated by the company unless, this is the proviso, unless the customer provides his own meter readings within a stipulated period. Within a stipulated period. It means that if you can provide your meter readings, mark my words, meter readings, you are allowed to use it in place of estimated billing that the discos bring. So if you have a meter, I will still get there. Despite the regulator's constant review of tariff payable in SI, that is Nigeria Electric Supply Industry, stable supply of electricity still eludes Nigeria. We have been reviewing electricity tariff, but we have not got power. If we pay 1,000 per kilowatt, we won't get electricity. It must be noted that continuous proposed adjustment of electricity tariffs to a purported actual value of energy consumed. I'm talking about the so-called, they wanted the cost reflective tariff, reflective tariff. Even though if we get there, it may even worsen the financial capacity of consumers who are presently groaning under the weighted burden of estimated billing. Up to 60% of consumers are using our unestimated billing. So if you are increasing tariff, what is the parameter to use to measure their consumption? Section 116 of Electricity Act 2023, which vested in the almighty Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission the exclusive power to set tariffs, should be amended to conform to the 1999 Constitution. I have said it time without number. NEC, as an institution that manages the entire power sector, is an anathema.
Dr. Fodio.
Yeah?
Sorry, sir. Sorry for cutting in. Your slides have not been moving, so I just wanted to confirm if you were moving them because we're trying to follow.
Sorry, it's moving here. Okay, I'm very
Oh,
sorry. Oh God.
okay.
Okay,
It
let
hasn't
me.
been moving, but it's fine. We've been listening. Well, so
Okay,
our 20
I'm
minutes is
very
also up.
sorry, and
So
I'm working with the slides. I don't know.
it's
So
fine.
let
We've been listening. Yes. So we could just start to conclude. Hello, sir. Hello, are you still there? Can you hear me? Hi, Dr. Fordell. Can you hear me? I guess that's network. Please, if you have any questions so far for Dr. Fordell, please do well to drop them in the comment box. We'll take what we can, seeing as we're running behind time. We're just going to wait for 5 minutes and we'll try to reach out to him. I guess he's having some network reception issues.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Welcome back. Yes, we can. You're now muted. Hello.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Okay. So Lagos State
Yes,
has
please.
started the journey towards the goal of having electricity in Lagos State. Let us ensure that each state do the same so that we will have regulators dealing with the distribution side of the power value chain. What the NEC has is too much. They have tried their best, but they are biting more than they can chew. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that wonderful session. And we have closed on a very good note. Well, we've closed the speaking sessions. We'll just take a few questions before we wrap it up for this webinar. If Dr. Fodio will do us the honors. One of the questions here we have from Barakat Shita is, where an end user has a prepaid meter, which the discos are facing out, the end user is also in the process of obtaining a new meter. Do the discos have the right to place such end user on estimated billing? I'll take that again. Where an end user has a prepaid meter, which the discos are phasing out, the end user is also in the process of obtaining a new meter. Do the discos have the right to place such end user on estimated billing? Another question from yes.
Okay, let me check the two together.
Yes, please. Another question from Babatunde Amo is there a timeline for discos to provide prepaid meters for a customer who has applied for same, and what are the consequences of violation? So we'll just take those two first.
Okay, let me quickly take the second one. It is not within the purview as at now by Meter Asset Provider Regulation of 2018. It is not the discos that provide meter. We have asset providers now, but they can only deploy meter when consumers apply, but they will be telling you it's not available. There is a reprieve. If you go to, there's the last slide I have. There's what we call check meter. I am using it in my own flat. Since there's a definition of what is called meter, meter is a device that measures the amount of electric energy consumed by discos. I'm not saying it offhand. That is section 3 of the 2018 MAP regulation. If you can provide your meter reading, you can get it in market over, maybe around 15,000. I bought it sometimes in 2019. If they bring estimated billing, as they are used to being violating the compliance of the regulation of estimated billing, you can provide your reading and it will be taken in law that is exactly what you have. That is the solution. They cannot face any consequence because you don't have meter. The moment you don't have meter, you are qualified to be placed on estimated billing. The problem of estimated billing is not the name, but the discos are violating same. That is number 2. On number 1, it still relates. There is need for consumers to be vigilant. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. That's what I would say. Control your consumption by using the check meter to know actually what you consume at a given period of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those very precise responses. 2 more questions before we call it a day. What concrete policies are currently in place to prevent electricity distribution companies at discos from arbitrarily increasing tariffs without proper regulatory oversight or consumer consultation? And then the second is, how is the government addressing the widespread issue of estimated billing, especially in communities that have yet to receive prepaid meters?
As I said earlier,
yes,
the discos do not have the opportunity of
increasing arbitrarily tariffs as regulated. Where they are having problem, where consumers are having problem is the estimated billing, where you don't have the amount of energy consumed. They fix it arbitrarily. And the government has tried a lot by putting estimated billing cap in 2020. And that was what informed the fine of 620 million slammed on 8 discos just yesterday. Not only that they are going to pay that money, they must refund by way of credit adjustment to those affected customers. This is what the regulators can do. It is left for consumers also to be wary of discos. Maybe that is the 11th law of Moses. Be wary of discos. So on the estimated billing also, the federal government has tried. They have tried also by ensuring that meters are deployed. In fact, federal government has fought strenuously right from 2016. Before then, it was the discos through process that were importing meters. As a result of that, MAP regulation of 2018 come on board. And from the provision, the regulation did not allow any proxy to set up meter provider because they know discos were doing it from the back door. That had been the effort of the NEC right from the onset. It's now left for discos to comply with the rules of the game and for the consumers to ensure that they are vigilant, because vigilance is important in this enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fordell. And with that, we have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much to everyone that has participated, stayed from beginning to the end. Thank you for your questions. They have been eye-opening. Thank you also to the speakers. You have definitely shown a touch of enlightenment to many of us here to follow. Just before we welcome the managing partner of Hullbridge Solicitors to give the vote of thanks, the following people have been very active participants and will be winning airtime and a book. So the following people are winning airtime. We have Euphemia Obi, congratulations. Emeka Anolefo and Afamefuna Mab. You know how we do it. Please just write your phone number and your network provider in the comment box. And you want to do that right now because we're already wrapping up, so that we can see that before we end. Also, Abdul Hakim Yusuf, congratulations, you have won a book courtesy of Hullbridge Solicitors. And please just follow the instruction for receiving your book in the comment section that has been posted there. Now, remember that we said that we're going to be giving out certificates of participation to everyone who participated and stayed until the end. So in the next 5 minutes, just before this meeting ends, please write out your full names in the comment box so that we use that to prepare your certificate. Please let's do that as quickly as possible. And with that, we have come to the end of this very wonderful event. Please, a round of applause for all the speakers. A round of applause for yourselves as participants. You've done really well. And a round of applause for Mr. Anthony Wanjigo as he comes up to give the vote of thanks. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Albright, for this wonderful opportunity once again to express our vote of thanks. So, as we're coming to a close of this event, on behalf of all the entire team, Albright team, I want to first and foremost thank God Almighty for the opportunity for us to host this webinar. And in the same way, I wish to express my profound gratitude to all the speakers. And in no particular order, I thank Mr. Kabir of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. It's always an honor. It's always a great gratitude having you in our webinar. You always give a touch of what the regulator is doing. So, and I know your time is one that we cannot even pay for. There is no way to compensate for the time and the effort you put in educating Nigerians, educating lawyers, educating people about the privatization issues that is ongoing and the role of NEC in driving through this privatization. Sir, we thank you so much. It's a great honor having you here.
Thank you.
And before I leave, sir, we have a little token to appreciate you, sir. It's not a way to, it's not in any way amounting to the value which you have already rendered. It's just a little token, a plaque of honor to thank you for bringing out your time and educating us and all the people who have participated in this webinar. It's a great honor, sir. Okay. And I will move on to the next speaker, which is Dr. Odile Noah. It is a great honor having you here. If maybe some of you don't know, but I think the moderator had already introduced him. He is an authority in electricity law. Yes. In fact, Dr. Fodil is one of the great minds in energy law, right from the Center for Energy, Petroleum, Economics and Law, CPE, in the prestigious University of Ibadan. Yes, he obtained a doctorate degree from the Center for Petroleum, Energy, Economics and Law. So you can see from his input that it is not just an opinion from a bystander, but it's a well-informed opinion that is founded on right knowledge of law. But there is no way we can appreciate you. Your value that you have given to us, the insights that you have made in this webinar is of inestimable value. The least we can do is just to give you a token of appreciation expressed in a plaque, sir, to show that we are grateful for all you have done for us, educating us, bringing out your time. Sir, we are very grateful once again.
Thank you, sir.
And I will not conclude without our heartfelt gratitude to all the participants in this webinar. Without you, this webinar couldn't have been a success. And I will thank you once again, because with your presence, you have always made this webinar a success. And I believe that as you have brought out your time to listen and gain informed perspective on electricity industry law I believe that these informed perspectives will be utilized in your individual activities in life and as to getting Nigeria work, making the industry work, and elevating the scope and the issues of privatization in Nigeria. And to the least, and to the last but not the least, appreciation goes to our able moderator, that is Miss Albright Emmanuel. She has introduced everyone, but she failed to introduce herself. So I will do the introduction. Albright Emmanuel is one of the best legal minds from Templars in Lagos. Templars is a full-service law firm. In fact, one of the A-list law firms. So she is a lawyer of high repute, and she has committed herself in the way she anchored and moderated this event, because this event is one of technical nature and perspective and cannot be moderated by any person, just any person. So we had to look for someone who would believe that it's not just a moderator by saying, but it's a moderator with ground footing in law and who has demonstrated her expertise and her eloquency in communication and her jovial nature in carrying everyone along and getting us to our destination, which brings to the closure of this event. Madam, I thank you so much.
Much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
And I think with this, we will draw the close of the curtain. And I thank you. And I believe that once again, we'll have the opportunity of having this event. Thank you, and God bless all of you.